Hey yo, welcome back once again to the Indiana Jones channel for the Japanese Grand Prix, which was a little bit strange, let's face it. But let's start first with the quick news. We already know that Pierre Gasly was going to Alpine and Nick De Vries is going to AlphaTauri in the place of Pierre Gasly. This was announced before this weekend. So what's gonna mean that for the rest of the grid? Well, there's only two seats available now, in Haas and in Williams. The Williams is kind of strongly suggested that Logan Sargent is gonna be the one being sitting next to Albon, since mainly he is the Williams Young Academy driver. So what does that mean? Daniel Ricciardo has been stating that since Alpine was like the only alternative for him to staying in F1. He's not going to be signing contracts just for the sake of staying in the grid, like with Haas or with Williams. Kind of already confirms that he's not going to be staying in F1 for 2023. This was something that we already said in this channel previously, but now it's confirmed since Pierre Gasly is confirmed. Alpine was already moving in directions apart from Ricciardo, so it was a difficult thing to happen. But anyway, let's focus on the race. Rainy conditions on Friday and on Sunday, which meant that probably something bad was going to happen, since in Suzuka, when it rains, bad things happen. We saw Leclerc having a good start of the race, overtaking Verstappen, but Verstappen showed his masterclass driving style under the rain, overtaking him over the outside once again to recover the first position. And then we saw Carlos Sainz having a big crash after the spoon corner. What happened? Well, they were all with the intermediate tires, and they said the conditions were very difficult, but the only one that lost control of the car in a bad way was Carlos Sainz, confirming that he's not having the best year possible, with Leclerc especially outperforming him race after race. We saw Pierre Gasly collecting some Rolex, as you can see here, the same one. Publicity in his car. Looks like he really likes that watch brand, right? We saw Alexander Albon getting stuck in the second gear. You can see here Carlos Sainz, and you can see here Alexander Albon needing to retire the car. We saw Zhou Guanyu as well spinning the car after the spoon, trying to overtake Latifi, who almost collected him after the corner. Pierre Gasly had to change the nose, so he was left behind, and that brought to something quite interesting, because everybody was behind the safety car except for Pierre Gasly, and they had to remove Carlos Sainz's car, which was kind of on the side of the track, but still with part of the nose on the track, which means the crane had to go into the racetrack, and per previous experiences in this corner specifically, it has to, like, they cannot put the crane in the track again, right? So the red flag was showed. I will not show now the image of Pierre Gasly passing next to the crane, because we can speak about that later. The race was restarted way after the red flag. As you can see here, there is a counter, right? 39 and 51 minutes. 39 minutes and 51 seconds, whatever. Anyway, the race, once the race starts, there are 3 hours, whatever happens, for the race to finish. Like it happened in Singapore, for example, or what happened here. I mean, the race itself cannot go after longer than 2 hours, but you have 3 hours to have those 2 hours of race. So if they already knew that the conditions were really bad, why the hell did they start the race? Well, I will tell you why. Because first of all, having the race in Asia, in Japan or China or whatever, the sun goes down at 5 p.m. So they don't have so much time to make the race, especially with rainy conditions, but it will get dark quite quick. As you can see here, lights and everything are already on. So why would you start the race? Why not? I don't know. Conditions are not good or whatever. So why do you have the extreme wet tires, like a tire that is actually for those conditions, but you're not willing to race. So what's gonna be the solution for this? I mean, before F1 races used to happen whatever the conditions were, right? They used to race until they could. Now you don't race even if you can. Like, you have the wet condition tires, you don't race. You have the intermediate tires, you don't race. So when do you race? Should they do it like in the USA, where like the IndyCar, they don't race under rain conditions? Just put in the regulations that under rainy conditions there will not be F1 races, right? I mean, so why do you have wet tires? I don't know. I understand there is spray, but there has been spray all of the history of F1. So why now no and before yes? Because it's dangerous, Jeppes. Before it was dangerous as well, and they kept racing. Anyway, this is a discussion for another time. So let's continue with the race. The race restarted. Verstappen, as you can see here, the order, except for the last two. And you will see that something interesting happened. Everybody was on wet tires, and the two drivers decided that it was worth a try to put the intermediate tires right after the race was relaunched. Vettel and Latifi. They did the first lap, and they saw that they were much quicker with the intermediate tires than with the wet tires. So everybody went on the pits to see what could happen. You can see everybody, every single person, except for Alonso, Mick Schumacher, and Zhou Guanyu, that decided to gamble and see if more rain was going to come, or it was a safety car or something that they could take advantage of, which did not happen. George Russell was one of the drivers that did have a bad luck, because he was behind Hamilton, and which meant he had to wait for Hamilton to change the tires so he could change his own tires. That meant that he lost places, so he had to recover. He had to overtake some people out from the outside, from the inside. Here you can see him recovering place with Norris, for example, that didn't have the best weekend. Still scored points, by the way. You can see here Hamilton fighting with Ocon, but the Mercedes does not have the top speed that other cars might have. So once again, even the Alpine with their Renault engine is faster than the Mercedes in the straight line. So Mercedes has a problem with the engine. That was the main battle for the race, because nothing else was happening. You could not overtake. There was no DRS, and these drivers apparently are not used to overtaking without DRS. And at the end of the race, you can see here the counter is at 0. You can see Perez fighting with Leclerc for P2. 25 seconds between Verstappen and Leclerc, by the way. That's a big difference. And you can see here more or less the differences. You have 12 seconds or 13 seconds more or less between Ocon and Perez. Hamilton was there kind of frustrated, because perhaps Hamilton did have the pace of these people, but Ocon was blocking him. You have Vettel, who at the beginning of the relaunch was one of the last drivers, especially because he had that incident in the first corner when he did an amazing start in the first start of the race, but he was had contact with Alonso and he was last. So Vettel did a really good recovery of the weekend. What could have happened if he actually did not have that contact in the first corner? Could have he been higher? Perhaps he could, right? But anyway, and at the last thing, well, you see Verstappen winning the race, and you see Charles Leclerc here jumping the last chicane, trying, as you can see here, not to get overtaken by Sergio Perez. In the end, he got a 5-second penalty, so he got behind Perez, and for some reason that the regulations got changed to see how many points were given to the drivers this year, they decided that it was a good idea to give full points to the finishing, even though they didn't complete even 50% of the race. Why was this? Like before, if you don't complete 75%, if I'm not mistaken, of the race, you will get half of the points. Now, if there is a red flag, according to the race distance, they will give you, I don't know how many points, this and that. Like I think if it's less than 25% of the race, they will give you points only to the first 4 finishers, if I'm not mistaken. If it's less than 50%, it's to the first 8 finishers, something like this. So why did they give full points? According to the FIA regulations, or how they interpret the regulations, is that if the race is finished with a red flag and the race distance goes to according to those percentages that I mentioned, then they will give those exact points that I'm not sure which one they are, but something like that. But the race got restarted after the red flag, which means there is a race. So whatever the distance happens after the red flag, it counts for the race. So that's why they give full points, which is very confusing, and for me, it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, if it's not gonna be in this race, it was gonna be in the next race. I mean, Max Verstappen was gonna be world champion for 2023, unless he had a crash in every single race, and Charles Leclerc was gonna be winning every single one of those races. But was not gonna happen. So anyway. Fair world champion of 2023. He's the his second world title, back to back. By the way, not so many drivers. I think there's 6 other back to back title winners. You have Alonso, Hamilton, Schumacher. I think you have Senna, Prost, and somebody else. But anyway, Niki Lauda, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway. You have Fangio, perhaps Jackie Stewart, but anyway, this is what happened, the points, and the championship for the 2023 season is over. What do we have now left to see? Well, if Mercedes can catch Ferrari in the points, who's going to be the second in the World Championship, because Sergio Perez is right there as well, fighting for the points, as you can see right here, overtaking Charles Leclerc. Can Carlos Sainz be the fourth one? I mean, he has the car to be the fourth one, right? If he doesn't take fourth position in the championship, it's a huge loss for him, because, let's face it, Mercedes is not even close to being there. And Hamilton is coming from behind. I mean, it's a close battle for that. You have also the battle for the Alpines and the McLarens to see who's going to be the fourth team in the Constructors' Championship. So anyway, the thing is not over. And now let's go to discuss this. This is the crane that got on track to remove Carlos Sainz's car. A crane that was there before the red flag was waved for the race. All the cars already passed through here, like maybe a minute ago or something like that, with the safety car. Pierre Gasly was trying to catch up with the group, which means he was going a little faster than he should have. Let's face it. He was not going very slow as he should have, especially in this area. He got surprised by the crane, and we all came to memory with this other crash. A crane, a car, Jules Bianchi in this case, that got under the crane and cost his life. Right? Now we have the halo, but that crash with Jules Bianchi is one of the main reasons why we have the halo right now. But still, the same mistake in the same racetrack under the same conditions. Somebody decided that it was a good idea to put this crane on track to remove Carlos Sainz's car. Somebody ignored that Pierre Gasly was coming from behind. What if this crane, I don't know if he came from this side or from this side, but imagine it's coming from this side and it's crossing the track as Pierre Gasly comes by. Pierre Gasly was overspeeding, let's face it, it's also his fault. As it was in Jules Bianchi's crash. He was overspeeding in that corner where there was a yellow flag under those conditions, and he lost the car because he was going too fast. He was trying to recover or gaining time under those conditions. Whatever the reason is, a driver should not crash into a vehicle that is not another F1 car, for example. There should not be a crane. It doesn't matter if it was their fault or not. It doesn't matter if Jules Bianchi was overspeeding in that corner. If he crashed, he should have crashed into Adrian Sutil's car, for example, not into the crane. But anyway, that's how it used to be. The things changed thanks to that. And in theory, unless there is a red flag and there is no cars on the track, there should not be a crane on the racetrack. But there was one yesterday. Pierre Gasly was overspeeding, as did Jules Bianchi, like I mentioned, and he didn't collect the crane, but he could have, right? If he was going very slow, he would have had time to to avoid the crane, whatever the conditions were. It was a red flag. They are supposed to be going very slow, but he was not going very slow because the red flag showed like maybe a couple of 10 or 20 seconds before this happened, which was way after the crane was already on track. So why is this happening? Why? And I was, from what I was reading as well, Alexander Albon was saying that Sebastian Vettel already brought this issue in the drivers' meeting, something that kind of happened already in Singapore with another crane. So why are they making this mistake again? What happened? This is something that has to be analyzed for future races. Anyway, this is what happened in Japan. I have to admit that I was quite disappointed with the F1 decisions of stopping the race. If you're not gonna use the wet tires, remove the wet tires. Honestly, just keep the intermediates on the softs, or just race when it's not in rainy conditions. Right? I mean, why would you start a race to give one lap and then stop it for 3 hours or for 2 hours and then restart it for like 10, 15 laps? I don't know. It was like, I think in total they gave like 24 laps, so something like that. Like, why would you do that, right? You're destroying, like, all those people that were sitting there under the rain, waiting to see the F1. They paid the entrance just to see something, like half of the show, let's say, because they didn't see the full race. They didn't enjoy anything, even though if it's raining and with the spray and you cannot see anything. Yeah, but I mean, it used to be like that before, and people still raced. But anyway, we have a gap now until the next Grand Prix, and we shall see what happens with the last 2 seats of the F1 grid. And stay tuned. And I don't know if this weekend, this week I will do on silly season, since I already said much of the things that are to say. There's only 2 seats left with Haas and Williams. The Williams one looks like Sargent is going to be there. And let's see what happens with the Haas. They say that rumors said that Hülkenberg was kind of signed. Now Gunther Steiner said that Mick Schumacher had the big advantage, especially because he's out qualifying Magnussen once again in Suzuka. But anyway, let's see how it goes. Stay tuned, stay healthy, and see you in the next episode.